Hello and thanks for staying on LN 24/7. This is Politics Now. My name is Morno Bala Gogo. Compliments of the Easter season. Well, we'll continue with our conversation in the world of politics. First topic for today, focus on Labour Party. A lot is happening. Let's give you a rundown of some of our talking points. We'll look at the controversy over National Convention, the Board of Trustees takeover, and resolving alleged division in the party. Joining us tonight is someone who's going to be giving us some perspectives, talking about Callistus Okafor, the former Deputy National Chairman of the Labour Party. And later on the show today, we'll look at the national economy. There's quite some progress, and we've got to talk about it. Tinubu's economic policies, Naira appreciation, tackling high cost of living, and Tinubu's Presidential Economic Coordination Council. We'll be getting into all of that in our earlier recorded conversation with Dr. Aliyu Ilyas, who is a political economist. He is also a customer service and CX expert and customer data analyst. We'll take a breather. When we come back, we'll delve straight into the conversation. To stay with us. All right, the embattled national chairman of the Labour Party, Mr. Julius Abure, has been re-elected for a second term by a unanimous affirmation of delegates despite the protest by the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC. Other 7 officers of the party were also returned. Do recall that the NLC had called for Abure's resignation as party chairman and the immediate constitution of a caretaker transition committee to organize a legitimate and all-inclusive national convention for the party. Mr. Julius Abure declared the positions of the deputy national chairman of the party reserved for the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress TUC respectively vacant. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission had disowned Wednesday Labour Party's national convention in Anambra. And of course, the crisis rocking the party took a new twist on Thursday as the Board of Trustees took charge of the party's affairs, about to take charge rather, and according to the statement on Wednesday, the chairman of the Labour Party's Board of Trustees, SOZ Ejiofor, said the decision was taken to prevent a leadership vacuum in the party. Now, the Julius Abure-led National Working Committee of the Labour Party dismissed the threats of leadership takeover by the group of members led by Ejiofor, purportedly acting as the Labour Party's Board of Trustees. And the National Publicity Secretary of the Labour Party, Obiora Force, said in a statement in Abuja on Thursday that the party wasn't aware of the existence of a Board of Trustees because the body was yet to be constituted. Now, according to him, the Labour Party on Wednesday successfully conducted its national convention in Nnewi, Anambra State, and Barrister Julius Abure was unanimously elected by over 350 delegates that were in attendance. That's for a national party, a party that came third in the overall general elections in 2023. Now, the Labour Party also released a document to support its claims that it duly notified the Independent National Electoral Commission within the stipulated time before its national convention, which took place in Anambra. In fact, the party said it gave 100 days notice instead of the normal 21 days. But INEC said they were not aware, so they have a proof to back that up. Now, the Labour Party and the Nigerian Labour Congress have been at loggerheads recently, with the latter accusing the party's leadership of financial rascality and contempt for the Congress leadership. Now, according to the NLC, Abure was unilaterally trying to hold a national convention in contravention of the constitution of the party. Well, joining us live from Lagos, Nigeria is Callistus Okafor, who is the former Deputy National Chairman of the Labour Party. Thank you, sir, for joining us in Politics Now.
Okay.
Give us a brief explainer on what's going on in the Labour Party.
By the consent judgment delivered by Justice Kolawole 2018, when everybody Then the late A.S. Salam, who was with this Abure, and my group, then NLC. So this is the three that the color will deliver judgment that there should be all-inclusive and expansive convention. So if we go by that consent judgment, what it means, in absence of the national chairman, according to the Constitution of Labour Party, the deputy takes over. In absence of the deputy, any of the national vice, any of the vice takes over. But it's unfortunate that things went the way it went. That brought us to where we are today.
Did you attend the National Convention in Nnewi? 350 members were at the National Convention. I just want to know if you were there.
No, Abure doesn't even have power to hold any national convention. He doesn't have power. One man doesn't have power to hold national convention. That is the truth. So why would I go an illegal convention? And Abure doesn't have power, according to the Constitution of Labour Party, to hold national convention. Yeah.
Now, Callistus, he was elected as chairman. What's your reaction to that?
Like I said before, I do not know why people glorify Abure by calling him national chairman. You cannot build illegality or legality or an illegality. What has been happening since the late chairman, A.S. Salam, died has been illegality. When A.S. Salam died, the deputy national chairman, according to the Constitution of Labour Party, supposed to take over. In the absence of the deputy, like I told you before, the national vice chairman, those that drafted that constitution, they were wise. If the two deputies are not there, it means that one of the national vice chairman must be there. Then, again, Abure, as an acting national secretary, is not in a line of leadership. He's in line of administration as an acting national secretary. If you recall, 2015 at Lokoja, Kogi State, the then national secretary, the Attorney General of Ondo State now, Barrister Kayode Ajula-San, he honorably resigned in his position as a national secretary. That brings Abure to become an acting national secretary. Abure benefited from that constitution, but he remained acting national secretary until A.S. Salam died. He hurriedly went to do National Executive Council meeting in Edo State. In Edo State, what happened there was National Executive Council meeting. In the Constitution of Labour Party or any other political party, National Executive Council meeting cannot elect a national chairman. The only thing National Executive Council will confirm that either deputy national chairman or in absence of any of them, then national vice chairman will take over immediately as an acting national chairman, not an acting national secretary. So for an acting national secretary to become a chairman, it was absurd. That was unheard of. Nobody could. I can't even believe it. I can't believe it. That is why immediately after that nonsense, I went to court to challenge the emergence of an acting national secretary to become a national chairman of Labour Party. You can see that illegality. He thought he could continue in the same illegality. Abure went to Nnewi. Have you ever heard that a national convention holds in a village? A national convention.
Now, the convention, if I just want to make this clear, was it not supposed to hold in Abuja? You talk of a national party that has members in the north, south, west, and east, and the focus seems to be on the east. You would have national conventions of other parties hold in Abuja, which is a central location for members of his party. Can you help us clear that?
No, not only, yes, they can hold in Abuja. It can hold in Abuja. It can hold anywhere, any capital. If you recall, some time ago, PDP held their national convention at Port Harcourt. You can hold it maybe at Oka, but not in a village. It's unheard of. Anyway, having said that, in the constitution of Labour Party or any other constitution, maybe call it PDP or APC, National Convention has process, has procedure. You don't wake up in the morning say you will go for National Convention. No. You start from congresses, world congresses, those that emerge in the world congresses, they're the one that qualify to go to local government congress. Then those ones that will emerge as local government ESCO will be the one that qualify to go for state congresses. The ones that qualify for these state congresses will be the one that will qualify to go for national convention. Not only them. At this point, according to Labour Party constitution, TUC, NLC presidents, their general secretaries are automatic delegates to this convention. All the National Assembly members are automatic delegates to this convention. Commissioners produced by Labour Party are automatic delegates to this convention. Councillors, House of Assemblies, governors produced by Labour Party. If there is any minister that has ever been produced by Labour Party, any president that has ever been produced by Labour Party, X, all of them are special delegates to this convention. These are the body. These are the delegates, qualified delegates for national convention. But you can see, Abuja went to Newi, went to Newi, and call all the spare parts dealers in Newi, and all of them came and elected him as a electoral chairman of his Edo or Benin party.
They are spare part dealers. Sorry to cut you short. We saw the deputy governor in attendance.
But you saw the deputy governor in attendance does not make any difference. These are birds of the same feather flocks together. Birds of the same feather flocks together. Yes, how can a deputy governor, elected deputy governor, wait for a convention that did not start, that has no procedure, a convention that was not properly conducted, a convention that did not start from congresses? How can a deputy governor do that? But for me, birds of the same feather flocks together.
Now, for the deputy governor to attend, that would mean that the governor is in support of this move and this directive in the party. What's your say?
I did not see governor there, but let me tell you, a deputy governor cannot go for convention when the governor says, I am not interested. For me, the deputy governor represented the governor. For me, because the commissioners went there, the House of Rep members from that state went there, so you can see, Abia State was fully represented. If you recall, that convention was forced to be held at Omuahe, Abia State. All of a sudden, they shifted it to Newi, not Oka, Newi, in a village in Newi. That is where a national convention was held. You can see the desperation of Abure. Now, how can who has the power to call for national convention. Number one, I want you to know that Labour Party is unlike every other political party. Labour Party is owned by NLC, registered by NLC. The ownership of Labour Party is not in any contention at all, because Kolawole delivered a judgment 2018 and said Nigerian Labour Party is the owner, registered Labour Party for the betterment of Nigerian workers.
And with all of your suggestions and that of the NLC about the illegality of Abure, the big thing that we notice, is the fact that he's thriving in the midst of all this. What are you going to do to stop, his rule over this party that, you've shown us proof that he's not the owner of the party? And that's the same stance that the NLC has on this particular crisis that is rocking your party.
You see, let me tell you, before, I will tell you that he thrived before, but he can't now. Before, maybe the NLC then, or the president of NLC then, supported him. But you can see the action of the present NLC president now. They are taking the bull by the horn. They are now want to take over that party with the stakeholders. Like I was about telling you, the power. Who are those people that has constitutional rights? How can a national convention be called? How can you convene it? It's not. It cannot only be convened by the national chairman or secretary. No, by stakeholders. How do you start? First, you call for a national working committee meeting, who will sit down, discuss it, then take it to the National Executive Council. They now discuss it. They now extend it to the stakeholders. Stakeholders will not come, sit down. Well, you remember I've mentioned the stakeholders before. NLC is a stakeholder, a primary stakeholder, the first stakeholder, because they are the owners of Labour Party. No other political party you will see where NLC president, TUC president, and the national secretary are automatic members of National Working Committee and National Executive Council. No other place. Now, they are the primary stakeholders. National Assembly, they are stakeholders, and every other. They will sit down and discuss the modalities of that convention. When will it happen? How will it happen? Oh, this and that. They will all discuss. It will start in 3 months. Before that, they will start in 3 months for social date to social date to social date. And for that reason, they will put up a transition committee. Call them convention committee. One person will be a chairman, someone's secretary. They will now start, giving them 3 months to start. Then after that, the moment they finish putting up the structures very well, they will now tell the chairman and secretary, write a letter and to inform INEC that our congresses will start on the so date. Word will commence so date to so date, and 3 days later, local government. 3 days later, states. Maybe 2 weeks later, national convention. That is how it's being convened.
Now, INEC disowned the National Convention, but they released a statement that they had, notified INEC that they had notified INEC, giving INEC 100 days notice. What's your take on this?
Oh, and you see, I'm happy that INEC is doing the right thing. You remember, some people has been asking, why should Abure, an acting secretary, emerge as a national chairman? Why? Number one. And number two, why would a national executive council made an acting secretary a national chairman, and INEC upheld it? Why? You see, let me say, maybe INEC didn't go through our constitution. Thank God now they have gone through our constitution, and that is why I did not see them there. It doesn't matter how many years they give INEC. It doesn't how many months they give INEC. But the Constitution, Electoral Act says you give INEC 21 days. But you can't give, but you're not giving INEC 21 days. You can't use 21 days to do all this planning. 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, you do planning, and again come out with your dates before you form INEC and give them 21 days. That is the truth. But this thing is all about, it's not all about a notification to INEC, no. It's all about doing the right thing. It's all about obeying your constitution. It's all about looking at your constitution and see that you're working according to your constitution. Abure, who still thought that he can live in illegality? He can continue living in illegality. He can see, like they said, every day is for the thief, but one day is for the owner. His cup is full. Whatever that has beginning must have an end. The end, the reign of a man who doesn't obey the rule of law. A man reign has
Now,
come
the
to an
bot
end.
says that they are taking over, but Abure's NWC is dismissing the threats. Can you help us make sense of what's going on? We saw the statement, we scrolled it earlier during my introduction in the show. What is going on with the leadership right now? Is Labour Party under the leadership of Abure, or it is under the leadership of the Board of Trustees?
It's okay. I have been a member of Labour Party since 2004. I've never shifted. I've never joined any other political party. Labour Party constitution is in my head. I can read it from A to Z without looking at it. The truth of the matter is that we must get it right now. NLC is doing everything to get everything right. But you see, I don't think that NLC is getting it right there, but NLC is working according to the agreements they had with Abure in presence of INEC, which Abure did not fulfill. But if I go by the consent judgment delivered by Kolawole, that consent judgment is the one that gave birth to that agreement Abure had with the NLC in presence of INEC. In that consent judgment, and said that there should be all-inclusive and expansive convention according to, please underline the word, according to the Constitution of Labour Party. As we speak, in Labour Party, there is nothing like BOT. We have never had any BOT. But like I said, I think NLC is using their wisdom, their wisdom based on the agreement they had with Abure in presence of INEC. I think maybe that's the reason. But having said that, whichever way we can follow, we must follow the right thing. We must do the right thing. We must follow the Constitution. We must follow the every word delivered by Justice Kolawole in the consent judgment. Calling all-inclusive convention, according to the Constitution of Labour Party.
All right, Callistus, if there is no Board of Trustees, then who are those people using the logo and the letterhead of the Labour Party to make such a statement?
As of today we speak, the Constitution of Labour Party, we do not have a Board of Trustees. But Abure entered agreement, like I said, that based on that consent judgment with Nigerian Labour Congress in the presence of INEC, where they put up 3-man or 4-man a board of trustees. That is what Abure did with NLC. So NLC is standing based on that gentleman agreement they entered into with Abure in the presence of NLC, in the presence of INEC. But in Labour Party constitution, up till now, there's nothing like a board of trustee. In after convention of 2024, the only convention Labour Party has ever had in Akure, we amended our constitutions, and where we added board of trustee, but the board of that constitution was not delivered to INEC within the 30 days according to the constitution, according to the electoral act. For that reason, by the time they send it, INEC sent us a letter. The letter is still existing. And INEC sent us a letter that that constitution, they cannot accept this constitution because it was delivered late. For that reason, INEC still recognized 2009 constitution. As we speak, the only recognized constitution of Labour Party by the INEC is 2009 constitution.
One of the decisions at the National Convention is that the likes of Peter Obi and Governor Otti have been made to retain their candidacy. What is going on? Is there some sort of politics?
That is laughable. You can see a treacherous, this is the way you are dealing with a treacherous man. You can see he can make mockery of himself. How can you say you make a man? He's just trying to use that. He thought he can use that to bribe or to buy Obi's conscience. He doesn't know Peter Obi. If he knows Peter Obi, he won't make such statement. They won't make such statements. Peter Obi is not begging anybody to make him automatic candidate. No, I don't think His Excellency Peter Obi is begging anybody to do that. They do that in their own accord. They just did that to use it to get popularity, to get favor from obedient and favor from Nigerians. That is nonsense. If you ask Peter Obi such question, he will tell you that he never asked anybody to adopt him as a candidate. Can a good, reasonable thinking man come out in a convention say they have adopted somebody for 2027? How many years to come as a candidate? Can you imagine? That's to show you how irresponsible such convention was. How irresponsible, how unconstitutional, how I don't know. I lack of words, but no responsible convention, no way constituted constitutional constituted convention that can make such statements. And that's to tell you the level of character, the content of characters of people that were in that convention.
Now, Abur, I beg your pardon, not Abure. Now, Callistus, I just wanted to be clear because you have the opposition who is supposed to be after the APC, which is the main opposition, and a lot of people have been saying that the opposition party is sliding, away from relevance. You talk about the PDP and now the Labour Party. If this crisis is not resolved, then there is bound to be problems. But the question I want to ask you is, how can this crisis be resolved? You are a factional leader. You used to be a factional leader of the Labour Party. Abure's faction is there. The NLC's faction is there. There's so much division in this party. How can this crisis be resolved once and for all?
Thank you for asking me this question. You see, that's the reason this Labour Party was formed by NLC for Nigerian workers. Labour Party was not formed to become like other political party. Labour Party was not formed to become a money-making machine like every other political party. Labour Party was formed to be able to be at the reach of Nigerian workers. Non-Nigerian workers can afford 30 million to contest any position in any elected position in election. Labour Party ordinary is supposed to be president can pay 10 million, governors to pay 5 million, senators to pay 3 million, House of Reps to pay 1 million, House of Assemblies to pay 500,000, 200,000. That is what Labour Party is all about. That is the aim and purpose of forming Labour Party. But you can see these gladiators have turned into a money-making machine. Way forward is very easy. Justice Kolawole, in his wisdom, delivered a judgment that has never been obeyed. Obeying that concept judgment by Justice Kolawole is the only way. All-inclusive and expansive convention according to, please underline, according to the Constitution of Labour Party. Bringing NLC, the primary stakeholders here, bringing Calixtus Ujoka for group, then ASLM group. Abure is in ASLM group. Please, I want to tell the viewers now. You see, Abure was my acting national secretary. That Butterford had a special convention at Stone Age, Central Area, 2017, that removed ASLM for embezzlement, forgery, and perjury. Along the line, when Abure discovered that he was indicted by police, immediately he left my group and joined the ASLM group. That is the same forgery, perjury, and fraud is what Abure has been accused of. Police has indicted Abure already, and the indictment of police is before the Attorney General as we speak. So you can see the character, the content of the character of a man who could go to Newi village to organize all Newi spare part traders to do convention with him. You can imagine the content of the character of such a man.
Now, what's the role of Peter Obi in all of this? We all know that this is the person that took Labour Party to the heights that it has attained today due to so many factors. We don't have time to go into that. But can he help in resolving the crisis in the party?
I believe that His Excellency Peter Obi is a man who believes in the rule of law. When it comes to party leadership, if you watch, he has been avoiding interfering in party leadership. He is a man who knows that he is a candidate as of that time, and he was a candidate now. He doesn't want to interfere. But when you come to party leadership, who has the right to call people together now? That is why I tell you the only answer to your question is consent judgment. The people is either like NLC is doing now. NLC who entered agreement with Abure, although Abure at the time they were entering an agreement with Abure was an illegal chairman. You cannot be illegality. You cannot be legality on illegality. As of that time, Abure was an illegal chairman. He has the right, constitutional right, as the owners to call everybody together. That is what they are doing now. If NLC don't do it, the next is who is the deputy by that constant judgment? Calixtus Ujokafo. Because there were three deputies. Calixtus Ujokafo, Ali Abacha, who is as of that time in APC. Then Mrs. Ladi Ilia, who is a statutory chairperson from NLC. So that these two, Ladi Ilia has no constitutional power to take over from the absence of chairman. So the only chairman, deputy chairman remained. That was Calixtus Uju Okafo. But like I said, I'm not standing here to say, oh, it must be me. NLC is doing the right thing. I mean, they're doing a good thing. NLC as the founders of Labour Party, NLC as the primary stakeholders of Labour Party, they are doing the right thing. I've been in touch with them. I've been talking with them because all I want is the right thing to be done, which NLC is doing now. And I tell you the truth, NLC is getting it right. By the time they finish the underground work they're doing, everything they're doing now, they will call all stakeholders together. We will all start the process of reconvention. At that point, NLC is also in touch with Peter Obi, His Excellency Peter Obi, because he's a stakeholder now. NLC is also in touch with all the national assemblies. They are stakeholders. Or state assemblies, the governor we have today, they are in touch with him because he's a stakeholder. So NLC is doing everything. In the party stakeholders, ASLN group, when I use the word ASLN group, that comprises Apapa, Abure, and Co. If you recall, they were together. It was the same fraud that separated them. As of the time of consent judgment, all of them were together. So Apapa, Abure group, then Kalisus Okafo group, NLC group, and other stakeholders, like I've mentioned, all of them will come to the table and discuss how we can do congresses that will lead to convention. That's the right thing to do.
All right, thank you so much, Kalistu Sokafo, for joining us with this conversation on the Labour Party. For the sake and importance of the role that the opposition party plays in politics, we hope to God that this crisis is resolved. Thank you so much, Kalistus, once again for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much.
Okay, and that's our show for this particular time. We still have more to talk about. We'll be talking about the state of the Nigerian economy and the progress that has been made so far by this administration. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. Good to know you're still with us on Politics Now, right here on LN 24/7. The conversation focusing on the Labour Party is over. Now it's time to talk about the national economy. Let's give you a rundown of some of the talking points again. Tinubu's economic policies, Naira appreciation, tackling high cost of living, and Tinubu's Presidential Economic Coordination Council. What's that all about? Well, joining us to throw more light on the national economy is Dr. Aliyu Ilyas, political analyst. And of course, he's also a customer service expert, CX expert, and customer data analyst. Now, let's do a breakdown before we get to our guests. Against the backdrop of a sustained appreciation of Naira against the dollar, the federal government seems to have gained control over the developments in the foreign exchange market. The local currency appreciated to 1,340 Naira per dollar in the parallel market, up about 0.65% from 1,350 Naira per dollar on Tuesday. Now, let's go to what the Vice President said. He said on Tuesday, assuring that the Naira would continue to stabilize in the coming weeks and months. And he hints and appears to have been validated by the position of the CBN's Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, which a day earlier raised its monetary policy rate, MPR, by another 200 basis points to 24.75%. Now, the MPC had less than 1 month ago raised the rate by an unprecedented 400 BPS in an effort to tame inflation. Now, both successful rate hikes, according to analysts, were spurring an inflow of foreign exchange in form of foreign portfolio investments, meaning that the government is prioritizing exchange rate stability above the inflation rate, which has hit a 28 years high that is currently at 31.7% from the statistics that was released to us from the National Bureau of Statistics. Now, to further strengthen the economy, President Bola Tinubu on Wednesday announced the establishment of the Presidential Economic Coordination Council, PECC, and the creation of the Economic Management Team Emergency Task Force, EET, comprising of public and private sector economic policy experts across board. Of course, this was revealed by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Chief Anjuri Ngalale. Now, according to him, the establishment of the economic team is a strategic move to bolster the nation's economic government frameworks and ensure a robust and coordinated economic planning and implementation. The Presidential Economic Coordination Council, PECC, comprises of distinguished leaders and key government officials, including the President himself, and then the chairman of the PECC, which happens to be the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, and then the chairman of the PECC NEC, President of the Nigerian Senate, and then, of course, the Nigerian Governors Forum. Then you have other coordinating ministers for the economy, Minister of Finance, the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and ministers that cut across agriculture, economy. Now, the statement also revealed that the PECC will also comprise key members of organized private sector, with the following members joining for a period not exceeding 1 year, and of course, subject to the President's directive. You've got the likes of Alhaji Aliko Dangote and the likes of Tony Elumelu and others who are part of this team. Now, furthermore, in his determination to address immediate economic challenges and ensure streamlined execution of economic strategies, President Bola Tinubu also established the Economic Management Team Emergency Task Force with a mandate to formulate and implement consolidated emergency economic plan. And the task force is chaired by the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, and of course key government officials, industry leaders, in furtherance of the President's collaborative approach towards achieving economic resilience and economic growth. Now, on Wednesday, I had the opportunity to speak with an economic analyst, Dr. Aliyu Ilyas, and ask him some basic questions on the Nigerian economy, the progress that has been made so far, and of course the PFCC committee set up by the President, and also the Emergency Management Task Force to oversee governance frameworks for the Nigerian economy. But first, I spoke to him about the policies of the CBN that's driving the Naira appreciation. We've seen it come down from about 1,600 Naira per dollar to about 1,300 Naira, which is where it is currently. And just take a listen to what he said.
Right, we must appreciate the CBN led by Yemi Cardoso and the coordinating minister Wale Edun. They've actually put a lot of things in place to really tame the challenges of forex itself. Among them is that, you look at them, they have been fighting even structural and non-structural approach. You look at them going to the BDC, make sure that BDC actually get to have proper, appropriate order in carrying out their activities. You can also see that they have actually decided to be selling dollars to BDC. They also look at what actually happened to Binance, because most of those things are much more of a perception. So when the perception is there that our dollar is going to have a better status, I think that will help. But by and large, I think their approach has been very robust. They are, they are working around the clock. However, there are some counterproductive approach to that they need to also look into very well.
Now, another question I asked Dr. Ilyas has to do with the sustainability of this trend. A lot of pessimists do not believe that Nigeria can actually get to the level where we can sustain the exchange rate to an extent where it drops, pretty fast and goes low to, let's say, maybe 500 Naira. Well, we can be hopeful anything is possible. But take a listen to what Doctor told us.
Right. If you like what I said earlier, that some of their approach are going to be counterproductive, and among those approaches that we are experiencing stagflation now, whereby the government is trying to achieve sacrifice economic growth for inflation to actually reduce it. But if you look at it very well, we have to look at the structural approach to it, because it's quite futuristic. That's why we said Nigeria economy should be much more proactive than reactive. So all the measures they have been putting in place, they are much more reactive, fighting the BDC, going ahead to really work on all those things are just react. So in terms of being proactive is to look at it futuristically and look at the policy framework that will engender appropriate development. Like example of what they do, they try to give money to Bank of Agriculture to actually, so that there will be food production. When we have productive economy. It will give us a better economy, but not like this. I call it much more of cosmetic approach, where you think if you do that initial grad, it will bring economy to a stable level. Another thing they did that's quite better is the backlog payment of those funds. I think that's a good one. It's helping us. Now, what we need to do now more is for us to invest more to have a robust foreign reserve, you know, because we have supply side of dollar. If there is enough supply side, no, that will be a better way forward.
Interesting. Now, the question is, will this trend have an impact on the cost of living? This was Doctor's response.
Right, there is what we call political economy, where you see marriage between politics and economy. And that has to do with Nigerian politicians. Because if you look at the issue of even dollar increment, there's some assertion that once we give out FAC, fair allocation, when they give out money, there's always a negative reaction on what? On dollar, because people tend to take those money into, you know, to those places to change the money. But the thing is this, in politics, the essence of all our leaders to increase the welfare of citizens. So they must do everything possible to make sure that Nigeria is better. Because if you look at it now, government is raking in more money at the expense of the citizen. A good example is first subsidy remover. Who is making the money? Now, government. The purchasing power of the citizen are getting slimmer. So government must make sure that they put that money into a productive venture that will benefit the citizen. For instance, the federal government is giving out palliative of 35,000 to federal civils. What are they doing in the state? So government must look at a kind of policy that will be that it will be what we call contributory in nature, where federal government is giving you, say, 150 million naira as a state. State is also bringing its 100 million naira to make it 250 to suffer. To reduce the suffering of the citizens. So there must be policy framework that will flow from the federal to the state to the local government.
Talking about the monies that have been saved from the removal of fuel subsidy, recall that President Tinubu rather gave 10 billion to each governors in the state, and we're looking at the livelihoods of the people in this state. We've seen bags of rice distributed. What else have been done with this $10 billion? So let's just examine the impact of the monies that have been saved so far to boost revenue generation for the country. This is Doctor's response.
Right. Governor, they all have priority, and that's why I said it must be a counter, what there's a name we call it, whereby government will bring some money, you know, state will bring some money. Government must give, federal government must give directive on where that 10 billion should go to. You know, they don't just give them on an open manner. There must be, okay, go and invest this in agriculture, go and use this to give MSME. There must be a directive, and that's what we are lacking. We are lacking since Olusegun Obasanjo government. During the Olusegun Obasanjo government, we have what we call needs, we have seed, we have leads. These things are they follow pari-passu, whereby if you are applying this and the state is also applying this, it will now bring a desirable result.
Of course, looking at one of our talking points, which I engaged Dr. Elias to help us shed more light, which has to do with Tinubu approving the forming of the Presidential Economic Coordination Council, PECC, appointing the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, 18 other ministers and prominent figures from the private sectors. And you have the likes of Dangote, Elumelu. But the question is, how will this council help strengthen the structures and policies driving economic growth? When you look at some of the private sector people brought into this council, they are capitalists. These are people that, you know, are goal-driven, profit-oriented. And how will that translate to affect the lives of the common man? These people don't live with ordinary Nigerian citizens. That was my question. And here is Doctor's reply.
Right. It is expected, because I expect him to make as ritual as they normally do, to have the vice president. However, we have the issue of the elitists, because the elitists are few and they're making decisions for the majority. So the problem is that these elites, are they going to do a bottom-up approach or a top-down approach? Because you cannot be in your office, in your comfort zone. If you look at all these people they have mentioned, they are all comfortable, right? So they can't be there and determine poverty policy related for the people. So sometimes we always want them to also look at the people, the downtrodden, and bring them in so that they can bring the other perspective. In as much as we agree that they are well experienced, but would they actually know and understand how the poverty is biting hard? That is the question. So for me, and another thing is this: most of our economic policy is tending towards the betterment of the rich, and we have the lack of Dangote, Elumelu, which are going to do something that is favorable to their businesses. So sometimes we always require that they bring in people from the bottom to also join the team.
Now, it's funny that Dr. Ilia talked about, the elitist, which is something that the president mentioned. Recall when he removed subsidy, he said subsidy must go. There are people who have been holding back Nigeria, profiting and making lots of money prior to the removal of subsidy. And he said these people must be removed. Now, the question is, they benefited at the detriment of Nigerians. Now that the subsidy has been removed, what more can Nigeria enjoy? And are those people, have they been, properly removed, these so-called elitists? And this was Dr. Ilia's response.
Well, for me, first subsidy, I think every part of Nigeria have their share of it. The poor and the rich. I can tell you that the rich are also feeling it. But when you say the rich, at what level? Right. So if you have children in UK, and they are schooling, and there is need for you to go and pay, you're also feeling it. Because if the amount you are paying before, when dollar was 500 or 600 naira, it's not the same thing as at 1,300. So we are all having that shift. However, I think it should be progressive in nature, that the more you reach, the more richer you are, the more you pay. Because I recall in Rwanda, because I went to Rwanda to study their economies to some level. In Rwanda, they have their people in strata. They know the poor, the very poor, the middle class, the rich, and the very rich. So if we can look at that trajectory and make sure that the rich are paying more for to really do activities, and the poor are taken care of, I think that will be fine. So we should find a way of balancing it. If you are rich, yes. If you are poor, government should take charge more.
Now, I also spoke to Doctor about the exchange rate used for calculating customs import duties and cargo clearance. It has decreased for the 5th time on the 2 weeks, moving from 1,612 naira per dollar on the 15th of March to 1,405 naira per dollar. Currently, the big significance of this was what I had to pose to Dr. Ilia to explain to us, and this was what he said.
Right. You see, we are always quick to make decisions on monetary policy, fiscal policy, but we are always leaving out trade policy. And trade policy is very, very key. For me, it's counterproductive, because the monetary policy are trying to stabilize the economy, and the fiscal policy are increasing excise duty. Now, you cannot afford to buy a car in Nigeria, and a lot of things have gone awry because of the import. So I think federal government needs to unify this policy, trade policy, monetary policy, and fiscal policy, so that they will not be counter. Because you cannot be solving problem with one hand and someone else is bringing it down. It's a big issue. So for me, I think it's not necessary at this time to increase excise duty.
The big question is, will this help to bring down
if you look at
rate of inflation? I say this because analysts, even like Dr. Ilia has, told us several times that this is what is driving exportation, and if you have the goods, importation rather, but if we have more exportation, then inflation comes down. But this reduction in this rate for exchange custom duties, what impact does it have on inflation? And that was a question I asked Dr. Ilia, and this is what he told me.
Right. If you look at Yemi Cardoso approach, he's using hawkish. We call it hawkish approach. So this hawkish approach is trading off economic growth for inflation to come down. And that's a very, very dicey way of looking at this, because now small businesses will find it difficult to grow, right? Manufacturers will find it difficult to produce. In fact, some of them will not produce. And when they don't produce, what happens? We will have unemployment, right? And when we have unemployment, what happens? Economic growth will be down. So it's a very, it has to be calculative approach when you are using it. At what level will you end it? Because now the MPR is now 24.75% by 200 basis points. And if you look at the last one, it was by 400 basis points. So you are actually discouraging manufacturers to go to bank to borrow, right? And looking at that as well, you see this manufacturer, they have been crying of unsold. What do you mean by unsold? That they have produced, nobody to buy. And why people not buy is because people do not have purchasing power. So when you don't have purchasing power, they are not buying, they will not produce. There will be unemployment and economic growth will be slow. And that's, I think that's the essence of our Kish approval. At what level are you going to change that? And that's what we want to actually see.
Important that I pointed out to Doctor that there has to be some checks. But the question is the CBN willing to do these checks and just focus on surface level, progress in terms of how the economy is performing? But I ask a simple question: how can the government balance the activities of the CBN to ensure that we don't just have surface level growth in terms of indices of what the economy looks like, but most importantly that it reflects on the average Nigerian?
The MPC, this is the second MPC they are having, and the MPC have been increasing the interest rate. For me, that's why I said ordinarily there are supposed to be a way that they balance the issues. How do they balance the issue? Somebody needs to go to the real market. You don't just come and decide on your suit in your offices. It is clear that this MPR is going to affect small businesses. How do we mean? Small businesses go to banks to raise some little loans. So by the time you go there and they tell you that you're paying 30%, you just say it's better I stay. Perhaps as a businessman more so, sometimes you prefer to go and keep that money in bank and also collect interest rate instead of you to go and manufacture or go and produce. So I think they need to review that. Perhaps they could create a window for MSME, that if you are MSME and a business between 1 million to 10 million, this is place you can access fund at a particular level that will better the economy of Nigeria.
All right, that was Dr. Ilyas, who helped us to understand some of the progress that has been made by government talking about the Nigerian economy. I look forward to having him physically on set. I just had to take a little bit of his time. That was on Wednesday to talk to him on the nature of the Nigerian economy and the progress that has been made so far by the government. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you for watching Politics Now. Be sure to visit our website, www.ln247.news, for more news reports. I am Mono Balagbobo, and that's our show for today. Thank you for watching.